Good afternoon, everyone. While we're looking at Iran war and the economy and the future, there's something else happening in the world. Something else very close to us. A nation has been suffering since 1960s. Uh, that nation is Cuba. And let's listen to this short clip. What's happening in Cuba and the humanitarian condition is dire. I mean, hospitals don't have electricities. People don't have electricity, gas, um, petroleum, which is the primary fuel for human existence, looks like these days. And it just shows how vulnerable we are to this liquid gold. Um, Maybe I don't want to go to a different topic. Maybe you should think about it, that we still haven't figured out an alternative. Eventually it's going to run out. But let's go listen to this clip where Topside News saying we're killing people. The United States is killing people. Ryan Grimm challenges Newsmax to explain why the U.S. gets to decide Cuba's future, describing the horrifying impact of the U.S. blockade, which is punishing civilians and rapidly collapsing daily life. Just take a listen to it.
I'd imagine. Dropside News reporter Ryan Grimm also traveled to Cuba as well, reporting on all this. He's seen in this photo here. And Ryan joins us tonight, and it's good to have you back on the show. The Trump administration is trying to end a 70-year regime. It looks like these guys, along with you there, are trying to help it survive. Am I missing something?
Wait, they're trying to do what?
Trying to help this regime survive.
Who is?
Piker, most of the people there. I'm wondering if you're along with them or are included in that.
Yeah, the group that went along brought about 50 tons worth of medical supplies and solar panels. That's right.
Medical supplies and solar panels, and a lot of sympathies for the regime that controls the country, I imagine.
So let me try to help out your viewers a little bit here. How do you feel about the fact that when Americans travel to a foreign country, in this case Cuba, they are told specifically a list of hotels that they are allowed to stay in another country?
I went through it because when I went and stayed there, it was the same. I stayed in an Airbnb. I think if you have, if our country's trying to squeeze,
what do you think of that?
I think our country's trying to end a regime that's been torturing people for a very long time, and they don't want to fund it.
Well,
they don't want us funding it by paying money to a communist-owned entity like a hotel.
So if their system of government is so awful, why not just let it fail on its own? Why do we have to blockade them? And
because they won't leave. They don't have elections. They won't leave power.
How do you think the United States economy would do if we cut off fuel for 3 straight months? No fuel has basically gotten into Cuba since the Venezuela operation.
Yeah, but I was there in 2019, Ryan, and it was still a horribly impoverished country. We're cutting off fuel to try and get this leadership out. Get them the hell out of there because they won't leave. They won't have an election. They won't leave.
Why do you care about like who's in charge in Cuba? Who elected you to do it?
Okay, this is a very crucial. Pay attention to this question. He's asking. I mean, it's just amazing questions. Maybe we should ask ourselves why. Just listen to me. Let me not.
That it's such a bizarre. Like there aren't enough problems in the United States here for you to worry
Well,
about? Like,
That's
it-
another
it
side of it.
really, like, I can't even get my mind to a place where I would think it's my call. Like, who runs Cuba? Who runs Haiti? Who runs Mexico? Who runs Iraq? Who runs Iran? Like,
That's a
who
fair.
runs
That's
Israel? Like,
that's a
what?
fair criticism. That's
Yeah,
a fair
like,
criticism.
why do
But I
you
mean,
care?
do you think it's better for do you want this regime to continue to run this country against the wishes of the people
It's not
that
up
are
to
all
me.
in poverty?
It's not up to me. I live in
Okay.
Washington D.C. I vote in Washington D.C. elections, and I vote in federal elections. Where do you live?
You live in Hawaii, yeah. That's
Where,
fair. But
where do you live?
I live in New York, and it's not.
Why should you vote? Why should you? What do you have to do with Cuba?
Well, I think that prosperity.
That is such an amazing question. What do you what do you got to do with Cuba? I mean, do you not have any other things to worry about? Uh, especially what's happening in our neighborhood, the homelessness. People are starving, drug-related issue. People are dying, overdosing. Uh, you know, people even can pay their uh, medical bill uh, and prescription. And we worried about Cuba.
Of that country that's only 90 miles away from our border can't be a bad thing. And I'm just saying, what I'm asking you is, okay,
then why not
fine,
let them import oil?
it's fine. It's not America first. Let's put it there. But
Why
do you
does it-
think
why
that
does it bother
regime should be
you?
running the country?
Why does it bother you if Mexico sells oil to Cuba? You live in New York. In what world is it a New Yorker's responsibility to stop Mexico from selling oil to
Stopping Mexico.
Fair criticism right there. My question to you is, why do you care? Why did you travel there? Why did you? If you don't care, why did you travel there to try and support them?
I'm a journalist, and the United States is literally killing people. Like, we are killing people. I toured two hospitals,
killing
one at a
people.
pediatric hospital.
Yep.
We implemented a new rule in February that says that if you're a private business, you can import oil, you can import fuel. So the hotel where we were required to stay is allowed by the United States government to have fuel. Hospitals, because they have a publicly run healthcare system, are not allowed to have fuel. I heard a lot of people complaining that the hotel still had power, but the hospitals didn't, not understanding apparently that it is a U.S. rule that blocks the hospitals from getting fuel. I toured the pediatric hospital. You know what the nurses and doctors there told me? They said when the power goes out, they immediately turn on their phone lights and race to the
What a
babies on
shame.
ventilators.
What a shame.
Because there's a gap.
And
Hold on.
I understand.
One second.
We're
There's a
killing
gap.
babies with
There's
their
a
power.
gap between when the power goes out and when the generator kicks in. That can be up to like 5 or 6, 7 minutes. A baby can die in that time on a ventilator. So they have to take their phone, turn the light on, race, and hand pump the ventilator. Because the United States has decided that Mexico can't sell oil and fuel
Let me
to
ask
Cuba.
you. That's
What
fine.
does
You
that
made the
do
point.
with
Let
the
me ask you.
United States?
That's fine. If you want to say it's not America first, that's fine. But let me ask you this: how many tens of thousands of people have died over the last 30, 40 years as this country has lived in extreme poverty? 88% of the people live in extreme poverty. The government will not allow any kind of capitalism in to bring these people up, to bring the quality of life up. How many thousands and thousands of their own people has that government killed? We're trying to strangle out a government here. And yes, there's going to be ancillary, there's going to be some negative impacts of that, like you just described. That's fair. But
First of all, why they have to bring capitalism to get the rich? Isn't Vietnam a very successful communist country? Isn't China a successful communist country? How about Russia? They're still, communist country. Why does Cuba has to be a capitalist country or listen to US to, they can feed their people? I mean, these are the questions we need to ask ourselves.
how many people have died because of the government in power?
I interviewed the number 3 guy in Cuba. Cuba. I will let you have the interview. You can air the entire thing. He said Cuban nationals, Americans, are welcome to invest in Cuba. He said they're open to in a holistic negotiation compensating Americans for property that was seized during the revolution.
Well, they're capitulating now. Right.
What they want, no, they offered that in the 1960s. The United States refused it because we thought we were going to do regime change. So why take a deal if we're just going to do regime change?
Well,
We didn't overthrow the government. We failed over and over and over and tried to assassinate Fidel Castro, like a dozen plus times. We tried an invasion of Bay of Pigs. It didn't work. Every other country, Italy, France, Spain, they all took compensation for what was nationalized. So they're saying you can invest here. Yeah, we will compensate you for what was nationalized. All we're asking is that you lift the sanctions and leave us alone. Why is that
the
a bad
regime
idea?
alone.
Leave Cuba alone.
Leave the regime alone and let the people continue to suffer. I mean, did you see the people there? The misery of the people that live in that country under these a-holes? It's horrific.
The misery is like unspeakable. It is unspeakable.
Been that way for a long time.
It's a lot worse. It's the people who were there in December and people who obviously live there tell me like it's noticeably worse. You have people like starvation and homelessness wasn't really a thing. Like there was poverty. It wasn't like extreme rich country.
Yeah.
But even a few months ago,
90% of the people live under $2 a day. I mean, that's nobody in America lives under $2 a day. Not a single person. I gotta leave it there. I really do. You're a good sport for coming on, Ryan Grimm from Dropside News.
You got it.
So here it is, you guys. I mean, it's just heartbreaking that that we don't understand that what happens to the rest of the world with our policies and what we do. It matters. We're the richest country in the world. I mean, we buy TV every year. Even we don't need them. Get brand new phone every year. iPhone is like $1,000, and these people can't even eat. They can't even have health care because of United States sanction. Well, I just leave it at that way. You guys think? Let me know.